Good evening to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our The Hurricane Hub discussion for Wednesday, May 17th, 2023. Almost forgot what day of the week it is, but just remember now. And here we are on Wednesday, third discussion out of our, I guess, hurricane season streak that we're trying to go for. I don't know. I'm trying to post every single day of the season, so that's what we're trying to do. So this is our third day of the streak in doing so, and we still have nothing really going on in the Atlantic, not within the next 48 hours or the next 7 days. And the Pacific remains the same and is very quiet overall. Not too unexpected. It's only May 17th, and things are going to take some time, of course, for activity to spike up. Did want to mention, though, really quickly, the NOAA Sea Surface Temperature Anomaly graphics. This is the NOAA Coral Reef Watch, and this is updated as of May 16th. There's always a day behind, but still, at least we do have this map almost every single day. This does update every single day, even though it's a day behind. So I guess you get a negative, you trade a positive for a negative or something like that. But you get what I mean. Very warm in the Atlantic, and the reason why I actually wanted to bring this up is because of the Atlantic. Look how warm it is, and I don't know. This just really has been a hot tub, basically since the beginning of spring, and the fact that it's remained this warm for this long is definitely a very interesting sign of the Atlantic setup for this year. And of course, we have ENSO. We already talked about ENSO for the last few days, so not really going to touch upon it today, other than, of course, we are still warming up and El Nino is still on the way. But I did mention the Atlantic is very much warm, and this is Andrew Moore that did bring this up as well. And he does mention that not very often you see 3 degrees Celsius anomalies near 10 degrees north off of Africa, and I certainly do agree with him there. And I scroll down, and we scroll down even more to another tweet because this is all part of a thread, and I do see some familiar faces like Danny Morris and Andy Hazelton involved in this. And he does mention Andrew Moore. The positive AMO was feeling threatened, kind of a little bit of a joke, with all the talk that this was on the downtrend. We're getting closer to surpassing 2010 levels in the MDR. That is pretty insane. 2010 was a record warm MDR, and he actually does show a graphic right here. And this is really interesting in my opinion, just to goes to show how warm it is. And heck, it even looks warmer than it does than 2020, and honestly, even 2005. We're looking a lot warmer this year than we are those years. And man, is it just really interesting? This was 2017 as well. We're definitely warmer in the MDR, especially the eastern part. Much warmer than 2017. 2010 is what we're talking about as a potential rival. We're not quite there yet, and hopefully we don't make it to 2010 because that would just be really insane. But we're definitely getting close. He is talking about we're getting closer to surpassing 2010 levels, and then of course compared to 2020, really, I mean, I guess this was only the start. May, if I remember correctly, in 2020 was really only the start of the positive AMO signature really getting going in the Atlantic. In 2020, it didn't really peak till July, but it really did get very warm in July in 2020. It was kind of insane there too. But compared to now, it's kind of funny how we're way warmer than 2020 yet we're kind of expecting a less active season, you know? Kind of funny, but of course there are other factors involved with that too. And I could scroll down a little bit more. This interesting guy, Richard Dixon, he's forecasting, not really forecasting, but he does add on to what Danny Morris, not Danny Morris, I'm getting all these names confused up. Andrew Moore, he's adding on to what Andrew Moore has been tweeting, and he says going to 80 west to 20 west on the MDR. We're second behind. We're second place behind 2010 for average MDR sea surface temperatures at May 15th, going back to, of course, 1981 OISST data. And by the way, what he means by OISST, that is basically just a method we look at for when it comes to measuring sea surface temperatures and sea surface temperature anomalies. So really, that's just the whole meaning behind it. Nothing much really other than that. But he mentions here, look at that. This is 2023. This is the orange, I believe. Orange, yes, I guess orange is 2010, and the red is 2005, and look where we are. We're ahead of 2005, that's for sure. Still close to 2010, very very close, in fact. And kind of surprising. And we'll have to see. Do we reach 2010 and end up surpassing it? If so, what implications does that have on the season? Very interesting. We'll have to see indeed. But looking at the satellite once again right now, not much going on. Still a lot of strong wind shear. It's May 17th, so that's to be expected. And some thunderstorms blowing off the southeast. So it's a little bit of interesting stuff going on there. I believe that's actually associated with some severe weather. Not quite sure, but I'll double check that later on. But strong upper level winds will continue to dominate the Atlantic for the next several weeks, so don't expect any development, really. But of course, it is only the early season, and that is to be expected. Taking a look at the wind shear, you could also see that very clearly. And honestly, when we look at this and we see all these strong upper level winds, these very strong winds in the upper atmosphere, you could see right here these winds, these clouds moving very quickly from west to east, very strong upper level winds. We really don't need a shear map to show that, but I'm going to show it either way. And you can see all these reds across the Atlantic. So a lot of wind shear right now, definitely unfavorable. But of course, as I reiterate once again, it is May, and that is bound to change. 850 millibar vorticity, on the other hand, very interesting to note. And watch again, as I did say, to watch over the next several weeks. Kind of getting a little bit ahead of myself. I'm gonna try to take it back a little bit. But what I've been saying, if you remember me talking over the last few weeks, watch how the deep tropics between 10 north and 20 north, especially out here in the eastern Atlantic, will begin to light up with a bunch more of these brighter colors in vorticity. The brighter on the scale we go, the more vorticity, the more spin. That's what it basically means, vorticity. Just think about it, spin, counterclockwise spin in the atmosphere. Counterclockwise, of course, because we're in the northern hemisphere. But bottom line, notice how we're starting to see a lot more of these greens. Not quite these yellows and oranges yet. We're going to take a little more time to get there, but notice we're starting to see a lot more bright colors in the deep tropics latitudes of the Atlantic. Still, we have a lot of energy up here, but of course, as I did mention, it is May. We'll so slowly start to see that lift north. But once again, notice how we're seeing a bunch of these greens starting to pop up, and that really does show you that we're beginning to transition into that summer pattern. And definitely hurricane season is on the way, and we also see a lot of this in the eastern Pacific. Definitely energy beginning to spin up, and that's associated, of course, with the change of times we're heading towards, with the overall atmosphere. But of course, as I did say, it will be slow. Of course, it is only May. And of course, piggybacking, I guess, off to, kind of been saying piggybacking a lot as of recently, but I guess that's the best way to kind of bring my point across. But anyway, looking at the GFS, you could take a look over the next 5 days or so. Kind of go back a little, kind of rewind this back a little bit. By hour 36, that's our little small vorticity signature we were looking at yesterday, potentially as something that's going to try to maybe do something off the Carolinas coast. Does still try to do it on the GFS model, but it's much closer to the coast, so it'll probably not be able to do it as much as maybe it was forecast yesterday. If you remember, yesterday was kind of off the coast, so it was able to develop more. So probably this might not be much other than maybe an AOI that the energy might tag in about a day or so. We'll see. But then moving on, 120 hours out, did see some mentioning on Twitter about maybe this being something to watch that tries to get going as well. I don't know. It's May 24th. It's, early on. We're not really looking too much into development right now, of course, except off the southeast coast, where that's typically where we see development in May. But of course, it's May after all, and we have to keep in mind that it's May. So if none of this develops, it really is no big deal, because the hurricane season doesn't even start till June anyway, so we'll have to see if any of these things get going. But overall, as I did say, the pattern looking quiet. And actually, really quickly, let's take a look at the Eastern Pacific, because I still think that's kind of looking dead as well. Let's see the Eastern Pacific. Let's scroll it back. Yeah, nothing really. Nothing in the Eastern Pacific except maybe that, I guess it's a upper level low over the Baja Peninsula. But yeah, nothing else really getting going. Maybe that's some sort of vorticity area. Maybe that'll uptrend in the models. I don't know. Let's take it out to. Why not take it out to hour 384? And we're actually at June 2nd now on the 384-hour model run. But even then, there's nothing as well. So probably going to stay quiet for the next few weeks. Conditions not favorable, but of course it is only May, and that'll certainly change in the next few weeks as we head closer towards the hurricane season. But I mean, as I did say, this is going to be a short discussion, not really much going on now, so there's no reason to make it all that long, except if we have anything interesting going on, which we don't. So, of course, this will be a short discussion for today. But hey, at least we do have a discussion. At least there's still something to talk about, and that is that, we're not really expecting anything over the next few weeks, I would say, which I guess is good and definitely something to enjoy now as we get closer towards the season. That'll definitely change, and I would assume in both basins, not just the Pacific, as well this year, especially in the Atlantic. We'll have to watch to see how those MDR SSTAs fare out, as we did talk about earlier. All very interesting things we'll be definitely watching as we go throughout the season. But other than that, just there's not really much else to talk about. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Like, comment, subscribe, share, help us build the community, and we'll see where. Once again, I said we'll see where this takes us. We'll see where we go with these discussions. Not only that, but also where we go with the season as well. It's all a journey. We'll have to see. Other than that, stay safe, peace, love, and kindness to all, and we'll see you again tomorrow.